For a cinema franchise selling itself on a shared universe where everything is connected, the Marvel Universe is fraught with inconsistencies, plot holes, and dangling story threads. However, part of this is a business issue. For example, how the whole Sony-Marvel potential divorce thing really messed up Spider-Man for a little while back there. On the other hand, Netflix's awkward split from Marvel Studios left the streaming giant no option but to announce the cancellation of every Netflix Marvel show. So any resurrection of Netflix shows would need to be on a different platform, and the longer it goes, the less likely the various casts and crew will be available. But there's also the creative issue caused by the culmination of the Infinity Saga. Characters have died, and actors have moved on to other projects, leaving loose threads ready to unravel. So with all that in mind, I'm Will for What Culture, and here are 10 MCU storylines we'll never get closure on. Number 10, Luke Cage is the Kingpin of Harlem. Your mileage for this may depend on how much of a cliffhanger you believe Season 2 of Luke Cage leaves us with. By the climax of the season, crime boss Maria Dillard was dead, and Harlem was in chaos as other New York crime families rushed in to fill the void, only to violently bottleneck at the door. To keep the fragile peace, Luke Cage, local hero and crime-stopping vigilante, decided to add another string to his bow. Rather than keep fighting fires all over his home neighborhood, he decided to take control of who set the fires and when. He became Harlem's newest crime lord, potentially putting himself at odds with superpowered friends like Daredevil or Iron Fist. That's a rationale oddly similar to the one used by Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin. For Cage to make a decision like this is wildly out of character, and fans were on tenterhooks trying to figure out what might happen next. The answer, of course, was nothing. Nothing will ever happen next. The show has been cancelled. Number 9, the Red Skull is still out there. One of the biggest surprises in Avengers Infinity War was the revelation that the Tesseract, aka the Space Stone, hadn't annihilated the evil Johann Schmidt at the climax of Captain America the First Avenger, but had rather transported him across the cosmos to Vormir to act as the Soul Stone's grim guardian. Of course, when Captain America chose to return the time-heisted Infinity Stones to when and where they were snaffled from, he had no way of knowing that the Stonekeeper he'd be returning the Soul Stone to in 2014 would be his first and worst enemy. However, there are no plans to ever show us Cap's odyssey across time and space, and it's unlikely Chris Evans would return to do it if they were. It looks like all we've got is our imagination. Number 8, what did the Soul Stone actually do? As the MCU began introducing the Infinity Stones, we developed some basic understanding as to what each stone was for and what it could do in the right hands. But the Soul Stone, no one really knows. It seemed to be intelligent in a way the others weren't. It seemed to have trapped the Red Skull on Vormir and cursed him to dwell on there as a spectral guardian. It seemed to demand sacrifices and possibly contain some form of pocket dimension, though it's unclear whether that was ever real. But the key word there is seemed. We never truly found out what the Soul Stone could do or what it was for, and now that it's been destroyed, it looks like we never will. Number 7, Bullseye is alive and well and madder than ever. Daredevil's excellent Season 3 gave us an origin story for a man who really didn't need one, the Marvel Universe's most annoying sadist and master assassin Bullseye, the man without fear's comic book nemesis. Having said that though, it was a great story, managing to set up Ben Poindexter as a truly scary natural killer while eliciting a degree of sympathy for the villain in seeing how far the Kingpin pushes him around the bend before he breaks. The climax saw Kingpin break Bullseye's spine, only for the coder to reveal the psychopath under the knife, replacing it with cognium steel. Cue crash zoom into a Bullseye swirling in Poindexter's mad eye, and credits. The scene was set for Bullseye to become the feared antagonist in the TV show that he was in the comics, but that shot was Daredevil's last because Netflix cancelled the show 6 weeks later. Number 6, Ghost is probably a cloud of floating atoms. In Ant-Man and the Wasp, ruthless thief Ghost is revealed to be Ava Starr, a desperate woman trying to obtain sufficient quantum energy to stabilize her disintegrating physical condition. Ghost finally fails in simply taking what she needs from the titular Tinies, and our heroes are successful in restoring Janet Van Dyne to the physical universe, whereupon original Wasp demonstrates her true heroism by lending Starr some of the quantum energy she's absorbed to temporarily solve the problem. At the end of the film, the gang have promised Ghost that they'll find a permanent cure for her condition. Scott Lang is sent back into the quantum realm to gather more energy. cut to Africa and Thor choosing taunting his enemy instead of going for the head. Pym and the 2 generations of wasps collapse into dust, and Ant-Man is stranded for 5 years, and Ghost, well, Ghost is toast, isn't she? Just another bit of collateral damage. Number 5, there are 2 Iron Fists now, right? Following the events of Iron Fist Season 2, Danny Rand is no longer the Iron Fist. He passed that power and responsibility onto his ex-girlfriend, Colleen Wing, who it was discovered is a descendant of the first female Iron Fist. That in turn may mean that she was destined to be the true living weapon all along. Instead, Rand's search for the mysterious Orson Randall has allowed him to acquire twin pistols that seem to have similar chi-based powers to Iron Fist. One would imagine that this is where Season 3 of the show was going to go, with a new female Iron Fist dedicated to that specifically Oriental mythology. One would have to imagine, because of course Netflix cancelled the Iron Fist series in October last year, and there are currently no plans to bring it back. Number 4, what happened in the Sorcerer Supreme's absence? Going back to the collateral damage caused by Thanos' snap, let's spare a thought for the consequences of Earth losing its Sorcerer Supreme. Because Stephen Strange wasn't just a superhero, he was our first and last line of defense against the kind of extra-dimensional pug uglies that make Thanos look pretty. And it wasn't like Strange was off for a little bit and Wong and the others could hold the fort until his sudden dramatic return. He was one of trillions across the galaxy who lost their lives in the same minute. 5 years later, when Strange reconstitutes, he'd be faced by someone else loitering in his library and wearing his favourite bunny slippers. Even worse, wasn't Dormammu's vow to stay off our manor made to Strange? Wouldn't the Hellspawn consider the good Doctor's death a loophole to get out of his promise? But none of that's ever going to be addressed. They're not going to waste the first 40 minutes of the new Doctor Strange having him fight for his old job back. We'll never hear about it again. Number 3, what happened with the Wakandan succession? On a more mundane level, T'Challa certainly shouldn't be king of Wakanda anymore for exactly the same reason. Given the Wakandan traditions surrounding the succession to the throne, laid out in brutal fashion in MCU's own Black Panther movie, and that both T'Challa and Shuri died childless in the snap, there's no way in the world that their mother Ramona can hold onto the throne alone. No, without a true successor to T'Challa, one of the other tribes would have seized power, or there would have been some other very brief internal strife to set a new family at the head of the table. As with Strange, no one would have expected the Black Panther to return from the grave when so many were lost, and the stability of the nation would have been paramount. When T'Challa and Shuri returned in 2023, they should have come back to a Wakanda under someone else's rule. But, as with Doctor Strange, 2022's Black Panther sequel isn't going to waste the first act fannying about with politics and regaining the throne. So it's just another case of having to use your imagination to fill in the gaps. Number 2, the aborted end of Hulk's arc. From the Age of Ultron through Ragnarok and Infinity War, the stage seemed to be set for a psychological examination of Bruce Banner's fractured psyche, adapting some of the best Hulk comics of the last 25 years. It was a steady, consistent character development based on sound psychology, and then Endgame gave us the biggest missed opportunity of the franchise to date, presenting us with a merged Hulk after the time jump. And I love Professor Hulk, don't get me wrong, but all of the interesting stuff we'd seen up till now was jettisoned in favour of some offhand explanation involving an off-screen 18 months in a gamma lab. Not only that, but there's no whisper of the Hulk's actual persona in this new Smart Hulk. It would be lovely if we could look at this as a mistake on Banner's part, a continuation of the storyline, but it seems unlikely we'll see Hulk, as we used to know him, on screen anytime soon. Right now, the odds are that Mark Ruffalo's last contracted appearance in the MCU will actually be in the She-Hulk Disney Plus series in a couple of years. Number 1, what on earth really happened with Captain America? The coda to Avengers Endgame seemed to resolve a nagging loss in the good Captain's life, with his decision to stay in the past and live the life with Peggy Carter he'd missed out on before. While emotionally satisfying, it did raise a few questions. How did he do this? What happened next? Where did he get a new shield to give to Sam Wilson? Because if you'll remember, his one was smashed to bits in Endgame. Astonishingly, even the film's own screenwriters and directors can't agree on what happened. Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely claim that Rogers returned to his own past and lived there quietly with Peggy while she had all the adventures, ignoring what he knew about the history to come. That doesn't sound much like Steve I can do this all day Rogers. The Russo brothers, on the other hand, insist that Cap remaining in the past will have created a new branched timeline. If so, he could potentially have done anything, formed S.H.I.E.L.D. with Peggy, anticipated Thanos decades in advance, the whole lot. That's more like the Cap we know, but it does raise more questions. However, it seems that Chris Evans has moved on from playing Captain America, and it's very unlikely he'll ever reprise the role, which means that we won't get a good answer to any of them. And there you have it, folks, 10 MCU storylines we'll never get closure on. I don't want to sound like I'm complaining, of course we all love the MCU, I just wish we had more of it to answer these questions. I'm Will for What Culture, thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you next time.